Part 7. Si Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 61. Chapter 61 I Can Help You. On the plane, in the first-class cabin, Zhang Shiwei was secretly happy. She couldn't help but look around with her eyes. The environment in this first-class cabin was different, and it was incomparable to that in the ordinary cabin. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but turn my head and look at Rosen sitting next to me. All of this was thanks to him. I used to be with Luo Yuan Hang. Although I often flew out, I had never flown in first class. He always said that starting a business is not easy, and you have to save money. The company's expenses are also very high, so she has been enduring it, thinking that he is right. One day they will get through it, and then they can be a rich wife and enjoy the blessings. However, at this moment, she was sitting in the first-class cabin, enjoying all this without having to wait or endure it. Mr. Rosen, it's really an honor to go to the tasting with you this time. I still don't understand a lot. If I do something wrong or I'm rude, you must tell me, Zhang Shiwei said with a smile. You are very smart. After looking her up and down, Rosen spoke slowly, you will learn quickly. Really? Zhang Shiwei subconsciously smoothed her hair with her hand, and couldn't suppress her joy. Then I will learn more from you. Rosen's eyes fell on the hand holding her hair, and he continued to say in that slow voice, there will be a chance. Then She wanted to say something else, but suddenly she heard the sound. She looked in the direction of the sound and unexpectedly saw Suyun. Why is she here? Suyun followed Zhao Xi into the first-class cabin under the guidance of the stewardess. Not long after sitting down, Zhao Xi received a call from Mr. Wang, saying that the company paid special attention to it and upgraded it to first class, asking them to go over and behave well and experience it with their heart. Zhao Xi was naturally happy, and happily pulled Suyun to change seats. However, Suyun was murmuring in her heart, is this the intention of the company, or someone else's intention? Even if the company attaches great importance to it, there is no need to spend such a big price for these two employees. The total trip is only more than 2 hours. Is it necessary? Besides, if this is the case, you can book first class from the beginning, so why bother to upgrade? Although she was confused, it was impossible for her to call and ask at this time, so she suppressed her doubts and followed Zhao Xi into the first-class cabin. What she never expected was that there were thousands of roads in this world, but the road between enemies was narrow, so she could actually see Zhang Shiwei here. The four eyes met, and everyone saw surprise in the other's eyes. That's really annoying, he muttered quietly. Rosen heard this, turned her head and glanced, and saw the two people in the direction of her gaze. No, he raised his eyebrows. She is the one who caused problems with our essential oils. Zhang Shiwei whispered into Rosen's ear, she is very thoughtful and I didn't expect to meet her here. Mr. Rosen, please be careful. Don't getting too close to her. Rosen tilted his head and faced her face to face, I don't know her, how could I get too close to her? If I want to get closer, I'll get closer to you. As she spoke, a hand gently rested on the back of her hand. Zhang Shiwei stiffened and wanted to shrink her hand, but saw the look in his eyes and endured it. She smiled and said, of course, we are friends. Zhao Xian had already noticed when Suyun looked at Zhang Shiwei. The incident was such a big deal before, and considering that there were only those people in the industry, Zhao Xian was still impressed by Zhang Shiwei's face. You two are enemies on a narrow road, she chuckled, sat down and adjusted her seat, will it be lively now? It's nothing exciting, Suyun said calmly, pulling a blanket to cover herself, she doesn't stir up trouble, and I don't stir up trouble. We live in peace. She leaned back lazily. She was on official business now and knew her priorities. She would never cause any trouble to the company because of personal matters. What you said is interesting, Zhao Xian tilted his head to look at her and said with a smile, "But can you guarantee that she won't stir up trouble? If she were that kind of person, she wouldn't have made such a big fuss." "Hey, the foreigner next to her looks familiar to me." Out of curiosity, Zhao Xian naturally took a second look. Everyone naturally knows Luo Yuanhang, and that person obviously does not, but aren't the two of them inseparable and always stick together at all events? Su Yun naturally saw that Luo Yuanhang was not there, only Zhang Shiwei and the foreigner. She doesn't care who that person is, in short, just don't mess with her. "Sister Xian, I heard that the tasting is tonight, are you sure you don't want to take a nap now?" Su Yun glanced at her, turned her head and closed her eyes. "This is choosing to ignore it?" Zhao Xian smiled and then lay down and closed his eyes. It was rare to enjoy such benefits from the company, so naturally he had to enjoy them. Compared to the calmness of these two people, Zhang Shiwei was not so calm. From time to time, she turned her head and took a look. Seeing that the two people seemed to be sleeping, she felt more and more depressed. "It's rare to take a first-class flight, but I didn't expect it to be so troublesome. Why is she Su Yun everywhere? Is she just lingering in her world? Looking at her like that, she can still sleep peacefully. Why should she sleep peacefully? These days, she and Yuan Hang have been busy with essential oils, and because of this, Yuan Hang can't accompany her. All of this is because of her, and she can sleep so peacefully." Thinking like this, she became more and more resentful. "However, this is not a public place to have an attack, so I can only feel depressed in my heart." She was startled when her hand was suddenly held. She raised her eyes and looked at Rosen. Although his eyes were closed, one of his hands was holding hers. His lips moved. "If you want to take revenge on someone, there are 100 reasons. No matter which method, don't rush it." Zhang Shiwei. He slowly opened his eyes, looked at her, and raised the corners of his lips. "I can help you." This more than 2-hour flight was really difficult for Zhang Shiwei. The initial joy of sitting in the first-class cabin had long been diluted by irritation. In addition, Rosen held her hand the whole way. She couldn't break free or not, and she was entangled all the way. She felt vaguely that this trip to southern Yunnan might not be as wonderful as she expected. Luo Yuanhang was right. Rosen had intentions for her, but she couldn't offend him. What should she do? "We can only deal with it carefully." And Su Yun? Apparently, she also came to participate in the tasting party. Unexpectedly, after she left Wulan, not only did she not fall into despair, but she got better and better, and she could also enjoy first-class treatment. She would definitely not make Su Yun's life so easy. End of this chapter. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 62. Chapter 62. Mercedes-Benz suddenly loses its flavor. After the plane arrives at the place, the local area has arranged a reception. Luo Yuanhang made the arrangements for Zhang Shiwei, and everything in the hotel was pre-booked. She was already standing in front of the car door, but she calmed down and looked around. She wanted to see what kind of car Su Yun was riding. Even if Xinjiang relies on Uniasia, it is just an insignificant subsidiary. In terms of scale alone, it may not be much better than Wulan. They fly first class just to save face. Ms. Zhang, the person sent to pick her up, saw her delay in getting in the car and reminded her. "Got it," she responded. Just as she was about to bend down and get into the car, her eyes suddenly saw the person she wanted to see. Su Yun and Zhao Xian were not in a hurry, dragging their suitcases and walking out slowly, and then Rolls-Royce. There is no way she would admit her mistake. It turned out to be a Rolls-Royce. Although she hadn't recognized what series it was from, it was definitely worth a lot of money. With her eyes fixed tightly, as she watched Su Yun and the others approaching, she told herself in her heart that it couldn't be the case. It was just a coincidence that the car was definitely not here to pick them up. Her hand holding the car door was clenched tightly, and she watched helplessly as someone took her suitcase and put it in the trunk, and then got in the car. Then, the car started and left. At this point, she can no longer deceive herself. That's not it. That's absolutely it. But how could Soo-yoon ride in that car? How could she deserve that car? Why can she ride in a Rolls-Royce, but she can only ride in a broken Mercedes? Turning back to look at the Mercedes-Benz in front of me, I was very satisfied with it before, but now I suddenly feel unsatisfied. Everyone has left, let's get in the car. In the car, Rosen said casually. Zhang Shiwei got into the car reluctantly. Her mood was extremely bad. She felt that Soo-yoon was her nemesis. Why would nothing good happen to her whenever she met her? All her good moods would disappear because of her. Turning his head to look at Rosen, he saw that he looked very calm. However, his emotions were all over his face along the way, so he probably could see it too. Now in front of him, she didn't need to hide anything anymore, and couldn't help but ask, "Mr. Rosen, in fact, with your status and worth, you should have the best, right? With an arrangement like ours, isn't it right? Is it too much of a neglect?" Of course, Rosen could understand her little thoughts. He smiled disapprovingly. Indeed. It's a bit shabby. Looking up at the car, the faint smile on his face made Zhang Shiwei blush all the way to her neck. But it doesn't matter, I don't care that much when I'm away from home, but I'm not very satisfied with the hotel, and I've already upgraded the room in advance. Hearing that he had upgraded his room, Zhang Shiwei couldn't help but ask, "Is it the presidential suite?" Shrugging, he did not answer, but said, "But I only upgraded mine." "So, Weiwei, your room may not be on the same floor as mine." Zhang Shiwei. When we arrived at the hotel, it turned out that the room cards given were not for the same floor, and it was obvious that the receptionist at the front desk was extremely enthusiastic towards Rosen. This feeling made Zhang Shiwei even more depressed. Having money is good. Sure enough, no matter where you go, if you have money, you will enjoy different treatment. Rosen was still very gentlemanly, and because her room was on a lower floor, he sent her to her room first. Opening the door, Zhang Shiwei frowned immediately. The room is actually a standard double bedroom. Compared with ordinary hotels, the room is quite spacious, but it is only one room. There is a bathroom inside, and there is a microwave, small refrigerator, and sink outside. It seems to have everything. But there was still some gap between what she imagined. "Weiwei, your things are all here. Then, have a good rest. I'm going back to the room first." Rosen patted her on the shoulder and said with a smile. Seeing that he was about to go out, Zhang Shiwei quickly called out to him, "Wait a minute." He stood still, looking back and asking silently, After a moment of hesitation, she said hesitantly, "Well, I'm not too tired now, and you also have luggage. What I want to say is, can I go to your room to sit for a while?" Rosen didn't answer, but just looked at her. The meaningfulness in his eyes made her feel a little uncomfortable. She blushed and averted her eyes. "Of course," he said. With an uneasy mood, Zhang Shiwei followed Rosen into the elevator. As she watched the floors go up, her heart seemed to be rising up to her throat. She actually knew she shouldn't, but she couldn't control it. She really wanted to take a look and see what the world above was like. Ding, the elevator door opened, but Rosen didn't move. "Weiwei." Zhang Shiwei came back to his senses and forced a smile, "We're here, ah." Rosen smiled and walked out of the elevator, and she followed him out. This floor is indeed different from the one below. There are only a few rooms in total. After finding the room number, he swiped his card and the door opened. Zhang Shiwei followed him in, so after Rosen got out of the way, She could fully see the layout inside. My eyes were wide open at that time, and even the pupils were round. What did she see? The first thing you see is the large floor-to-ceiling windows, which can overlook almost half of the city. Above you can see the blue sky and white clouds, as if they are connected to the sky, and below you can see the green trees and blue sea, which is endlessly beautiful. This is simply a paradise on earth. Slowly walking in, she saw that it was a large suite. The place she entered was just the living room. But this living room alone is already larger than her room. It has soft leather sofas, water purifiers, wine cabinets, coffee machines, etc. Everything you can think of and can't think of is available. She was speechless and could barely see. She wanted to take a look inside, but she felt something was wrong. She stopped and did not go any further. "Don't you want to go inside and have a look?" Rosen asked. Zhang Shiwei shook her head and clenched her palms. "If it still doesn't work, I'll just take a look and leave right away." Even though she said this, she was reluctant to leave immediately. Looking at all this, thinking about facing that stuffy little room when I go back, it feels like there is a big stone weighing down my heart, making me unable to breathe. She stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, looking into the distance, as if she could forget everything temporarily, as if she could deceive herself that she already had it all. Her waist was hugged from behind, and her shoulders were pressed down slightly. Rosen stood behind her and hugged her. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 63. Chapter 63. I didn't expect you to be so rigid. The body becomes stiff instantly. Zhang Shiwei subconsciously wanted to break away, but she heard his voice ringing in her ears. "Do you like it here?" His accent has a slightly impure pronunciation, but because of this, it reminds her that his status is different and she cannot offend him. She stiffened her body and let him hold her. Zhang Shiwei didn't dare to move. She stiffened her neck and nodded. "I like it." "Do you want to have it all?" he asked again. This time, her movements were much softer and her speed was much faster. "Yes, of course I do." She can only dream of it. The dream in this life is to climb to the upper class of society, be a rich wife and pamper yourself, enjoy glory and wealth in this life, and never suffer hardship again. Her circle determines her class. The only one she can grasp and climb is Luo Yuanhang, but she regards him as a top performer and feels that he will one day become famous. Looking at Wulan growing up and getting stronger day by day, she felt that she was getting closer to her dream. He has also won the award and is somewhat famous in the industry. Although Luo Yuanhang still maintains a relationship with Su Yun as boyfriend and girlfriend, he is hers and is firmly in her hands. She sits in Mrs. Luo's seat. It is also very certain, everything is developing in a good direction. But this essential oil incident gave her a severe blow and made her see clearly that many things were not as wonderful as she thought. Wulan is so huge, but also so small. Even a small essential oil is almost destroyed. After all, it is different from big companies and large groups. The difference is simply thousands of miles away. As for Luo Yuanhang, when he encounters such a problem, he can only ask Su Yun or his mother, but his mother can't recognize him, so what's the use? In the future. She used to long for the future, but now she doesn't dare to think about it. She clearly discovered that there was still a huge gap between them and the real upper class and the nobility. Such a gap and height could not be narrowed by their hard work throughout their lives. This realization made her a little desperate. This world is very big, and you can't walk all the way around it, Rosen said slowly, but this world is also very small, and you can hold the small one with one hand. As he spoke, he slowly held one of her hands, then turned it over, wrapped it around hers, and held it tightly. Let's see if you can grasp it. Zhang Shiwei. She stared blankly at her hand, or to be precise, at the hand holding her. His palms were very big, and the hairs were extraordinarily long. Holding her hand, he looked so weak, and his strength was also very domineering, making it impossible for her to break free. Hold her hand, Rosen pulled her shoulders and turned her body to face him. Wai Wei, you are still young, you should make some plans for yourself. Zhang Shiwei's eyes were a little confused. She hesitated, watching Rosen's face getting closer and closer to her, and his lips getting closer and closer, almost touching her lips. At the moment when he was about to touch, she suddenly woke up and pushed him away. No. No, Rosen opened his eyes were clearly dissatisfied. Feeling confused, Zhang Shiwei put a hand on his chest, lowered her head and said, Mr. Rosen, I respect you very much and admire you very much. However, if I have a boyfriend, you should know that Yuan Hang is very good to me. Okay. I appreciate your kindness, but I... Before she finished speaking, Rosen had already loosened his hand and let her go. Zhang Shiwei. His reaction was a bit beyond her expectation. Zhang Shiwei looked up at him, only to see that he had turned around and walked to the refrigerator. He took out a can of cold beer from it, opened it with a snap, and took a big sip. Wai Wei, you think too much. Shaking his head, Rosen said, I thought you would. He rolled his eyes in a circle, probably thinking about the words, and then he shrugged his shoulders. I know how to be open-minded and free-thinking. I didn't expect you to be so rigid. Everyone is out, you are happy and I am happy, and there are so many things to think about. I can give you what you want. You can also satisfy me what I want. Isn't this great? Why do you have to carry such heavy thoughts? Burden. Huh. He looked nonchalant, as if being rejected just now was not a big deal at all. Zhang Shiwei found that she was so embarrassed when facing him. Don't worry, I just want to be happy and I won't force others. If you don't like it, okay, no problem, he nodded, but now, I want to rest. Obviously, this is an order to expel guests. Zhang Shiwei felt very embarrassed. Although he never said anything extreme from beginning to end, the feeling made her feel that she was very pretentious, and very ungrateful. The point is, it's really embarrassing to be kicked out like this. But, she had already refused, and even if she changed her mind now, it was too late to change her mind. What's more, she hadn't thought about it at all, and her mind was in chaos. Okay, I understand. Have a good rest, Mr. Rosen. See you in the evening, she finished quickly, lowered her head and walked quickly toward the door. Just as he was about to close the door, Rosen spoke again, Wai Wei. Zhang Shiwei stopped walking. We will stay in southern Yunnan for about a week. You have enough time to think about it. Slowly he held up the cold beer and said with a faint smile. Zhang Shiwei. She said an almost inaudible exited and closed the door. In the room, Rosen raised a smile that was determined to win. Zhang Shiwei's head was confused. She didn't know how she got back to the room. She felt suffocated. He was so depressed that he couldn't breathe. Rosen's body temperature, his smell, and his words all lingered around her, leaving her without a chance to breathe. You have enough time, think about it slowly. Think about it slowly. No. She couldn't feel sorry for Luo Yuanhang, not to mention that she might be pregnant now. Rosen just wanted to play with her, but Luo Yuanhang wanted to talk about marriage with her. They were serious. She couldn't go the wrong way, no. At this moment, Luo Yuanhang's phone call came, and she immediately picked up the phone. Yuanhang, I miss you so much. Luo Yuanhang was stunned for a moment. He probably didn't expect her to be so enthusiastic. Then he laughed again. What's wrong, you just arrived and you already miss me. I wonder when you can come over and stay with me. This time, she acted like a baby sincerely. Why Wei, you don't know that I still have some unfinished business here, but it will be done soon. After it is completely resolved, I will go over to see you. Be good. After he coaxed her gently, he asked again, that's right, have you arrived at the hotel? Is the room okay? I'm telling you, I specially chose the high-quality double bedroom. I've seen that the other rooms are too basic, so how can they be worthy of you? Are you still satisfied? End of this chapter. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 64. Chapter 64 Because I saw Su Yun. After hearing what he said, Zhang Shiwei looked around the room again, but all she could think of was the appearance of Rosen's room. She took a deep breath and said, it's not bad. Luo Yuanhang was not satisfied, it's just not bad. You know, the price is still quite different. It's pretty much the same, she said perfunctorily, not wanting to discuss this. How can it be almost the same? The difference is hundreds of dollars. He didn't realize it at all and continued, why Wei, we are relatively well off now, but as you can see, the problems the company is facing now are not. We still need to recruit talents and expand the market. We have to calculate every step carefully now, but if you think about it, in the future. The future, the future, the future. You always talk about the future, unable to bear it, Zhang Shiwei said angrily, what I want is now, in front of me, and what I want is now. You always talk to me about the future, and draw me a cake. What difference does it make to satisfy my hunger? I can't see it in the future, Luo Yuanhang, I can't see it. She couldn't help but roar, and tears fell down her cheeks. Luo Yuanhang didn't speak for a long time. He probably didn't expect that her mood changed so quickly and that she would become so angry. Wei, why Wei, he called out hesitantly, are you in a bad mood? Yes, Zhang Shiwei said affirmatively. Because of me, after thinking about it, he added, or, did Rosen bully you? Zhang Shiwei felt guilty when she mentioned Rosen. She quickly yelled, why are you bullying me? Will you think about those messy things? Luo Yuanhang, is that all in your mind? You ask me why I am in a bad mood, I will tell you. Because I saw Su Yun. Su Yun, Luo Yuanhang was startled. He didn't expect it to be her. Where did you see her? Did she go to southern Yunnan? Yes, she continued, not only did she come to southern Yunnan, she also flew first class and enjoyed special treatment. She was also given a special reception when she arrived. The person who received her was a Rolls-Royce. Luo Yuanhang, you heard, is it okay? Mr. Rosen and I only ride in a Mercedes-Benz worth more than 1 million, but the other person rides in a Rolls-Royce worth 5 million. She roared out in one breath, and her mood became much smoother. Luo Yuanhang. This is really a bit beyond his expectation. Why Wei, I didn't expect. You didn't expect it, and neither did I. She, Su Yun, betrayed us like this and framed us, and yet she could still live so well. Why? Yuanhang, I won't let her have an easy time, she gritted her teeth and said fiercely. Explain. Luo Yuanhang, what are you going to do? She must have come to the tasting this time, I want to make her embarrassed, she said bitterly. Why Wei, don't be impulsive. First, understand the situation. She is no longer a Wilan person. There are new people protecting her, and she doesn't listen to me at all. Do you feel sorry for her? How is it possible? He immediately denied, my heart is only for you, Wai Wei, you know that. But Su Yun. That's it, take care of the essential oil matter first, and then wait to hear my good news. After saying that, she hung up the phone. Wai Wei, Wai Wei. Luo Yuanhang called several times and found that he had been hung up on. He suddenly felt depressed. Su Yun? She also went to southern Yunnan? Recalling Zhang Shiwei's words, he was filled with doubts. First class? Rolls-Royce. Are the new students so generous? Or is it that Huanya has such huge resource support for a small subsidiary? Mr. Luo, the people from the laboratory came over, beaming with joy. The new product has come out, and it is exactly the same as before. Really, Luo Yuanhang was very excited, but he quickly restrained himself. Have you tested it? Is it completely consistent? Remember, there must be no difference at all. It sounds like a lot of luck but also quite annoying. The perfume made by Suyun seems to have some special magic power. People who like it will become loyal fans, but if it is slightly different, they will not buy it. Because of this only this time would cause such a big reaction. He must ensure that the things are exactly the same so that there will be no problems in the factory's quantitative production. He hesitated for a moment, probably thinking about it, then nodded quickly and said with certainty, same, exactly the same. Okay, at this time, he couldn't hold it anymore. Luo Yuanhang stood up immediately and followed him to see the newly released samples. It was such a small bottle and some test strips were placed beside it. He leaned over and smelled it. After hearing it, his frown finally relaxed. Go, send it to the factory immediately, let them keep running, work overtime and overnight, and make sure to catch up, he directed, and warned worriedly, don't make any mistakes again. Before he finished speaking, he seemed to think of something again. Forget it, don't go now. I'd better go for it myself. The matter is so important that I really don't feel safe leaving it to others. Hurry up and allocate more. You have worked hard these days. When this period of work is over, I will give you a bigger holiday and a salary increase. Thank you, Mr. Luo. The staff happily prepared to deliver the news. Luo Yuanhang was about to leave, but after thinking for a moment, he stopped and said, by the way, Wu Arian still hasn't come. She asked for leave. He scratched his head and replied. Sick leave again. Luo Yuanhang was used to this woman. Anyway, she had never done any serious work since Suyun left. No, this is a personal leave. I only said that I had something to do, but I didn't say anything about it. Luo Yuanhang waved his hand, go ahead. Personal leave. Has he approved it? But she didn't care whether he approved or not, she was just acting so arbitrarily now. He was too busy before and had too many things to do to take care of her. Now, it's time for him to free up his hands and take care of these disobedient people. Send the essential oil directly to the factory, and then drive directly to where Wu Arian lives. The employee registration form in the company has detailed home addresses and registered residences. These are not a problem and can be found easily. Arian actually has an ordinary family environment. Her father passed away 2 years ago, so she rented a small 2-bedroom house here with a small area, and lived with her mother. Standing at the door of the room, Luo Yuanhang pressed the doorbell. He stood there patiently and kept ringing the doorbell, 2 or 3 times every once in a while. After a while, he heard a yawn coming from inside. Who is it? Her hand had already touched the doorknob. Arian thought for a moment and looked through the peephole. Luo Yuanhang. I was surprised, and all my drowsiness disappeared. End of this chapter. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 65. Chapter 65, You think too highly of her. Mr. Luo, Arian blinked, trying to clear her head. Why did you come to my house? I heard that you asked for leave. As a leader, shouldn't I care about my subordinates? He stood there, as if he knew she was peeking out of the peephole, and suddenly looked closer to the peephole. The face suddenly enlarged, startling Arian, and she took 2 steps back. You. Wu Arian, are you planning not to open the door and just let me stand at the door to talk to you? Mr. Luo, I'm sick, and it's not convenient for me to be alone at home. She didn't want to open the door, and she didn't want to say anything more to Luo Yuan Hang. With him coming to the door anyway, it wouldn't be a good thing. Fortunately, Mom's gone out to buy groceries, otherwise. Mother. I really can't think of people during the day. Just when I thought of this, I heard a voice from outside. Who are you? Hello, I am Wu Arian's boss, my surname is Luo, and I am the president of Wulan. This was Luo Yuan Hang's voice. Oh, leader, Arian's mother immediately said enthusiastically, why are you standing here? Arian is at home. Hey, this girl must have been asleep and didn't hear. I'll open the door. At this moment, she couldn't help but open the door. She quickly tiptoed and jumped back to the room and closed the door. Boss, please come in and sit down wherever you want. Arian's mother greeted her enthusiastically, put down the dishes in her hands, and called her daughter. Arian, Arian, your leader is here. There was no reply. She turned around and smiled awkwardly at Luo Yuan Hang. You sit down first. This child is very dead when she goes to sleep. I'll call her again. Really? I seem to have heard her talking just now. Luo Yuan Hang sat down on the sofa and said with a smile. Now that things were like this, Arian knew it was useless to hide any longer, so she had to change into suitable clothes and open the door. Mom. You child, your leader is here. He let her pass with a wink, and then went to boil water to make tea. Mr. Luo. She walked over reluctantly, and she stood there with no intention of sitting down. Luo Yuan Hang crossed his legs, looked up at her, and smiled slightly. Arian, isn't your physical condition very good recently? Arian's mother, who was bringing tea and fruits, heard this and said quickly, no, Arian is in good health. Really? But recently Arian often calls in sick. I thought there was something wrong, so I came to care about it. He pretended to be surprised, as if he was very surprised by the answer. You often take sick leave. Arian's mother was also surprised and turned to look at her. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Mom, it's okay. She frowned and whispered. She doesn't understand these things at work when she tells her to her mother, and she doesn't want to worry her mother, so every time she takes sick leave, she goes out to collect materials, or she just finds a place to stay for a day and a half, whatever she has on hand. The money was still enough, so she would just spend it with Luo Yuan Hang. She felt that with their patience, if she had to wait for more than a month, she would be discharged and she would be free. Unexpectedly, Luo Yuan Hang would come to the door. Nothing's wrong. Arian's mother raised her hand and patted her. I said something hasn't been right with you recently. The company is always on holiday. It turns out you're lazy. You're lazy at work. Why are you still? What do you want to do? As he spoke, he hit her several times. Arian did not hide, but said helplessly, Mom, don't worry about it. You can go and do your work first. I don't want to worry about you. You should try your best. Now that all the leaders have come to my house, tell me, can you make a difference? Mom, she was very helpless. Luo Yuan Hang on the side seemed to be leisurely watching a show. He waited for Arian to be beaten a few times before he cleared his throat and said to stop her, Auntie, I think Arian may have some other reasons. Just ask. Don't blame her. I'm not here to ask for guilt. I just want to care about whether you feel uncomfortable or have encountered any difficulties. Mr. Luo, if you have any questions, can we go out and chat? Looking at him, Arian felt very annoyed. She really underestimated this Luo Yuan Hang. He was more despicable than she imagined. She would actually come to her home and use her mother's pressure to suppress her. Anyway, the goal has been achieved. Luo Yuan Hang spread his hands and said, okay. Everything is fine. Arian's mother had already made tea. When she heard this, she quickly put down the teacup and said, Boss, Arian is a bit spoiled by me, and sometimes she is quite willful. but she is still a good child. If she is lazy at work recently, yes, you may scold her, but she still needs this job. Mom, stop talking. She really wanted to touch her forehead, which was really making things worse. Glancing at her, Arian's mother felt that the child did not understand her good intentions. Don't worry, Arian needs this job, and our company also needs Arian. Standing up, Luo Yuanhang said with a smile. That's good, nodding her head repeatedly, Arian's mother said, thank you soon, leader. I wanted to say something, but I couldn't remember my last name. Mr. Luo, let's go out and talk. Arian couldn't bear it anymore and stood at the door. Mom, I'll go out and I'll be back soon. Okay, talk to the leader, Arian's mother whispered as she walked up to her and turned her back to Luo Yuanhang. Arian and Luo Yuanhang went to the coffee shop downstairs together. Although Luo Yuanhang ordered 2 cups of coffee, she had no intention of drinking it. Mr. Luo, what do you mean? You came to my house specially. Her tone was not kind, and she was no longer as indifferent as before. Luo Yuanhang smiled, picked up the coffee and took a sip unhurriedly. You care about your subordinates. Okay, let's not beat around the bush anymore, Mr. Luo. I know what you want, but I'm sorry, I really don't know Su Yun's formula. You know, every perfumer has his own exclusive secret recipe. It's impossible to share this with others, and I'm just her assistant. I'm still Wulan's person. Why do you think she will believe me? She finished speaking in one breath, and Luo Yuanhang did not interrupt her. He smiled and looked at her calmly. After she finished speaking, Luo Yuanhang nodded. What you said makes sense, but I'm not here to ask you for any formula. Do you really think that Wulan can't run without Su Yun? She can make some. Didn't we take advantage of this little trick? You think too highly of her. Su Yun really thought that he was here because of what happened before. She hadn't been to the laboratory these days and didn't know how the situation was progressing. She just wanted to leave them in a mess, but now seeing Luo Yuanhang like this, is this problem solved? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 66. Chapter 66. Only interests are eternal. Facing her confused gaze, Luo Yuanhang knew what she was thinking, and smiled proudly. What, you don't believe it? If you don't believe it, you can go back to the laboratory and have a look, or ask other people. Wu Arian, don't be stupid. Your arms can't hold your thighs. Do you think Su Yun can really bring you anything? She's gone. She's free and comfortable now. Have you ever cared about you? Do you know what she is doing now? You fly first class, and you are picked up by a Rolls-Royce, but what about you? You can only rent a shabby house like this with your mother. If you get angry with me and miss work willfully, how long will your salary savings last? 1 year, 2 years, or 3 months and 5 months? Have you ever thought about it? Your contract will expire in 2 years. Before it expires, I will hold you back. I won't approve your resignation. If you insist on leaving, you can pay liquidated damages. Wu Arian, follow me. Can you afford it? He leaned back and smiled extremely confidently, as if he was confident of winning. After saying these words, Arian lowered her head and said nothing. Luo Yuanhang felt that he had touched her heart, and his smile became deeper and deeper. Arian, I am actually quite tolerant of you. Think about it, you have been so troubled recently, which boss can tolerate you? Moreover, what are you talking about? What does the matter between me and Su Yun have to do with you? Then it is also a personal matter between me and her. Is it necessary for you to involve yourself? After saying that, He owed his body and slapped an envelope on the table. These will be considered as your recent hard work. If you accept them, pack your mind and come back to work. The company will ignore the past grudges and will continue as before. Mr. Luo Arian slowly raised her head and held down the envelope. I will do the work, but the money, I can't accept it. Then, he pushed the envelope back. Luo Yuanhang's smile froze on his face, his eyes dark and uncertain. What do you mean? Since Mr. Luo has said it clearly, I might as well say it bluntly. If you don't let go, I can't afford the liquidated damages, so I can only continue to waste it. Yes, you are rich and powerful, and I can't waste it on you, but I work normally. If you don't pay me the salary as usual and you maliciously deduct it, I will sue you to the Labor Bureau. If you think this is interesting, then just spend it like this. After saying that, she stood up and left. After being stunned for several seconds, Luo Yuanhang realized what he was doing and turned around quickly. Why on earth are you doing this? Wu Arian stopped. How long have you known Su Yun? How well do you know her? Wai Wei and I have been classmates with her for so many years, and we don't know her better than you. How can she repay you if you treat her like this? What good does it do to you? As for you, his eyes were contemptuous and full of disdain. The loyalty of friends and helping each other are just stupidity. In this world, only interests are eternal. It's not important how she repays me. What's important is, how do you repay her? Turning around, Arian looked at him and said, others may not know, but you and I both know it. Su Yun, she did it for you. How much has she done, how much has she paid, and what did she get? You poured all the dirty water on her and took away the fruits of her hard work. Why should I sacrifice my life for you? Wu Arian looked down upon him. From her eyes, Luo Yuanhang could see it. Her eyes also aroused his anger. Okay. Since you are so loyal, then you can be buried with her. Let's see. After saying that, he pushed her away directly and left first. Arian staggered as she was pushed, holding onto the backrest beside her with one hand to steady herself. The reason why she agreed to go back to work was because Luo Yuanhang was right about at least one thing, and she couldn't afford it. If Wulan couldn't survive this essential oil matter, the contractual relationship between her and Wulan would naturally be terminated. But just now he understood what he meant and the problem was solved, so he would be so arrogant. Then if you continue to make trouble, you will only continue to live without a salary. You need money for rent, water, electricity, and living expenses. It is really difficult to live without money. Go back to work normally. If Luo Yuanhang still defrauds her, she can sue him. Besides, she also wants to go back and see how they solve this problem. She knew the people in Wulan very well. If she had this ability, the chaos would not be like that before, and Luo Yuanhang would not want to keep her. Among the 360 lines, there are relatively few people in this line of work. There are very few people, and there are even fewer people with outstanding abilities, which is why Wulan relies so much on Su Yun. Could it be that Zhang Shiwei really has this ability? 6 o'clock in the evening, Marriott Hotel in southern Yunnan. After Zhang Shiwei finished talking to Luo Yuanhang on the phone, she cried for a while and fell asleep when she was tired. When she woke up, it was already past 5 o'clock. Thinking about having to participate in activities in the evening, I quickly got up to take a shower and dress up. In fact, her appearance is very advantageous. She is gentle and pleasant. In addition, she is good at making use of her own advantages. The charm of her eyes and brows is unique, so she can take Luo Yuanhang very well. I just cried for a while in the afternoon, and now my eyes are a little swollen. Sighed, Zhang Shiwei took out her eyeshadow, used dark color to cover it up, and applied contour powder. After the overall adjustment, it was not very visible and she looked radiant. She put down the contouring pen and went to apply lipstick on her mouth. She had just applied it twice when her stomach suddenly started to churn and she could hardly control it. Hurriedly covering his lips, he rushed to the bathroom and vomited. In fact, I didn't vomit anything, it was mostly sour water, but my stomach was churning and uncomfortable. After calming down, she stroked her belly with one hand, becoming more and more sure of her guess. She might be, really, pregnant. Can't tell you what it feels like. She seems to be happy, but she doesn't seem to be very happy. If she is unhappy, she has no reason to be unhappy. She is pregnant, Luo Yuanhang will definitely marry her, and Mrs. Luo's position is secure for her. But, why is there not the expected joy? I have fantasized about it countless times, but when I finally get it, I feel nothing. Suyun doesn't care at all. After working hard and competing for so long, she found that Suyun didn't care about Luo Yuanhang as much as those awards. The experiences of these days made her feel even more confused about her future. Expecting Luo Yuanhang to climb into the upper class seemed to be a long way off. To be precise, she felt it was impossible at all. In this life, are you destined to live a life of little wealth and peace? The most important thing is, how long can this kind of small wealth and stability be maintained? It cannot withstand wind and rain at all. The fingers pressing on her lower abdomen tightened, and her heart felt heavy. End of this chapter. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 67. Chapter 67 Yao, I miss you a little bit. After Zhang Shiwei packed herself up, she didn't receive a call from Rosen for a long time. She had a vague feeling about something bad, so she didn't care about being reserved, so she went upstairs to his room to find him. After ringing the doorbell for a long time, no one came. Instead, the waiter was summoned. "Miss, what do you need?" "I'm looking for Mr. Rosen, but he has no voice." "I'm afraid something might happen to him," she said anxiously. "Oh, you mean Mr. Rosen? He went out half an hour ago," the waiter replied with a smile. "Out? No, it's impossible," she didn't believe it. "We agreed to leave together, but he hasn't called me yet. How could it be possible?" Something suddenly occurred to her mind, and she began to panic. Rosen, is it because of her rejection before? No, I cannot. Didn't he say, don't force it, as long as everyone is happy, and he won't force her if she doesn't want to? It's unlikely that he didn't even take her to the tasting party just because she refused. Of course, she also has an invitation. But how can that be compared to appearing with him? Thinking of this, she quickly found her cell phone and called Rosen. The ring rang for a long time, but no one answered. Facing the cold door panel, she finally realized that she had been let go. Rosen was telling her in this way that if she refused, she would get nothing more from him. He gritted his teeth and saw that there was not much time left, so he could only rush to the venue by car first. "You're going like this?" Looking at Suyun, who was dressed in simple clothes, Zhao Xian's eyes were filled with clear dissatisfaction. "Isn't it good?" He looked down at his skirt. Although the style was a bit simple, what he was pursuing now was simplicity and elegance. "It's not good, but it's not good at all." Shaking his head, Zhao Xian said disapprovingly, "We are going to represent the company this time. You are pretty good looking, and that's because you are here. But it's too bad for the company. What should I do? Shall I go change?" She didn't bring many clothes originally, thinking that the weather wouldn't be very cold, and the event was only for one day, and the rest of the time she would focus on collecting styles, or light ones. Mostly casual clothes. "I probably looked at all your clothes, but they all don't work. How about this, you wear mine?" said Zhao Xian turned around to get his clothes. "Your? Why, no. I've seen it. Your figure is similar to mine." Although my clothes are not brand new, they haven't been worn twice. Isn't it wronged by you, she said while saying, I found a black tube top dress in the suitcase. The hem of the skirt is a bit long, but fortunately she is not short and can fully hold it up. In addition, her skin is fair, and the black dress sticks to her white skin, creating a strong visual impact and making her dazzlingly beautiful. Is this appropriate? Since being together with Luo Yuan Hang, she has not participated in such activities for a long time, let alone worn similar clothes. At that time, she was content with ordinary stability and wanted the most ordinary and simple happiness, but even this was difficult. Is there anything inappropriate? Zhao Xian turned her around and was extremely satisfied. I think your dress is more suitable than mine, so I might as well give it to you. This won't work. Hey, stop being so coy, you're nothing like when you first came here. Looking at her pretending to be angry, Zhao Xian said, as long as you don't dislike my clothes. Put them on, it's almost time. It's time for us to go. Su Yun laughed. If she wasn't in a hurry, she really wanted to ask what it was like when she first came here. It was still the Rolls-Royce, and Zhao Xian was also shocked. She was really surprised when she saw this car at the airport. The company was really generous this time. I think her stay in Xinjiang was not too short, and she went on a lot of business trips. When had there ever been a hotel of this level? Generally speaking, Mercedes-Benz and BMW are standard specifications. Later, when she returned to the hotel, she made a special call to Mr. Wang, fearing that she might have made a mistake and whether the company would be hosting some big shots here. In the end, Mr. Wang reassured her and said that the company was taking this very seriously. Let them perform well and enjoy the highest standards of treatment throughout the process. The highest standards, she thought that first class and a Rolls-Royce airport pickup were enough, but she didn't expect to go to events in this car now. How many days is this package? Comparing to her trembling and disbelief, Su Yun has turned from the initial surprise to being calm. It's just another little trick on his part. This pair of freshmen is indeed amazing to ordinary employees, but to him, it is just a drop in the bucket. I wanted to call him in the afternoon, but his phone was turned off and I didn't know what he was busy with. Maybe he was in a meeting? When Su Yun came back to her senses, she realized that she was thinking about him again. Not long after she left, I didn't know how many times I thought of him. This longing was silent, but like a huge invisible net, weaving her tightly. Si Yao, I miss you a little. Su Yun, at this tasting, I heard that several well-known senior perfumers will come. In fact, we are going mainly to observe. Don't be too stressed. Just talk less and watch more. Zhao Xian, after all, he is experienced and introducing and reminding her. Yes, I understand. She nodded and responded. Seeing that she had listened, Zhao Xian nodded and continued, wait a minute, I will introduce you to some colleagues in the industry, but don't take it too seriously. The rules of tabooing peers are universal everywhere. You just be careful. As she spoke, Su Yun nodded. When she finished speaking, Su Yun suddenly asked, Sister Zhao, we are also traveling together, are we jealous of each other? Zhao Xian rolled her eyes. Seeing the smile on her face, I knew she was joking. Zhao Xian snorted softly, you? At least you have the qualifications to make me jealous. Do you think anyone can be jealous of others? That makes sense, Su Yun laughed. You're not up to date, Zhao Xian pushed her slightly, and Zhao Xian also laughed. It is hard to imagine that more than half a month ago, the two people were at loggerheads and almost went to war, but now they are like best friends. The friendship between women is sometimes really hard to describe. The venue was arranged at the Fudeng Hotel, the most luxurious hotel in southern Yunnan. Although it was only a small-scale event in the industry, it also attracted many reporters. They set up cameras early, waiting to capture important scenes. Every car that drives over stops in front of the hotel. After getting off the car, you walk along the red carpet. The lights were shining, and there was always someone who wanted to be the focus of the feast. But at this moment, Zhang Shiwei was sitting in the car, looking across the road, reluctant to let the driver pass. End of this chapter. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 68. Chapter 68, Angry, Why Not Angry? She wore beautiful clothes and exquisite makeup to look her best, but she did not dare to walk in alone. In the venue where big names gathered, Wei Lan was too insignificant. Standing next to Rosen would have definitely given her extra points, but now, she was alone, and no one would look at her differently. She found it difficult to accept the thought of being ignored when she got off the bus at the hotel entrance. She kept calling Rosen's number. She didn't know how many times she called her from the moment she got in the car, but there was no answer. He made it clear that he didn't want to answer her call. Director Zhang, if you don't go, the time is coming, the driver turned to remind her. Why are you in a hurry? I'm not even in a hurry yet, she scolded irritably. Just when she was about to try Rosen's call again, she raised her eyes and saw the Rolls-Royce that made her eye-catching slowly approaching. With a thought in her mind, she patted the front seat and said, Quick, drive over, follow them, don't get too close. Since the seat was opposite the hotel, the driver turned the steering wheel, turned diagonally forward, and drove straight up the ramp of the hotel. Zhang Shiwei got out of the car on the ramp and closed the door just in time to see Suyun get off. She wore a pure black long tube top skirt, with her hair tied loosely behind her head. She looked majestic and elegant. This skirt fully highlighted the advantages of her right-angled shoulders and swan neck, making her gorgeous and noble. Clenching her fingers, Zhang Shiwei stepped on high heels and quickly caught up, Suyun. Suyun and Zhao Xian were standing in front of the red carpet and were being photographed. When they heard someone calling her name, they subconsciously looked in the direction of the sound. Zhang Shiwei is wearing a dark red short skirt. The length of the skirt only reaches the top of her thighs, revealing two slender straight legs. Coupled with 8 cm high heels of the same color, she looks even more proud of her figure. At first glance, she has carefully selected the combination. Past. Suyun actually didn't want to pay attention to her, but after all, there were so many people there, especially reporters, so she stood still and watched her running towards her. Suyun, it turns out that you really came to the tasting meeting, what a coincidence. It seems that you have made a great contribution by going to Xinjiang. The treatment given to you by Xinjiang is good, and it is not in vain that you took the trouble to change jobs. There was something in her words. Staring at her, Suyun sneered in her heart. She knew that Zhang Shiwei would be up to no good if he got close to her, but his rank was really low, and it was still a big deal to open and close his mouth. She really thought that she could trip her up with this, and how could she imagine that? Did you step on her to get the upper hand like that before? With a sneer, Suyun nodded slightly, yes. The treatment given to me by the new students is indeed very good. After all, they have long-term development prospects, and their structure and mind are extraordinary. As for job hopping, Miss Zhang, you seem to have remembered it wrong. I have never signed a contract with any company before, so why would I want to change jobs? Oh, right, before Zhang Shiwei could speak, she added, you mean, the years when I helped Wulan before. It was just a little thing, a few bottles of essential oils and perfume. We have been classmates for so many years. I can argue with you about this, you say, right? Holding the handbag, he patted her chest gently and came a little closer, Miss Zhang, your bra is about to be exposed. After saying that, she turned to look at Zhao Xian, Sister Zhao, the air outside is not very good, let's go in. Zhao Xian nodded happily. When he passed Zhang Shiwei, he glanced at her from the corner of his eye, full of disdain. You. Zhang Shiwei originally wanted to humiliate her, and then let these reporters who would take quotes out of context write randomly. Unexpectedly, she turned against him. Before he could say anything, he heard her words again and hurriedly looked down. The texture of her skirt itself is relatively low, and coupled with the few steps she took just now, the whole skirt is pulled down, so that the edge of her underwear is almost exposed. Her face suddenly becomes hot, and she doesn't care so much, and raises her hand. Covering her chest with her handbag, she walked quickly into the venue. After walking around the venue and saying hello briefly, Zhao Xian introduced a few familiar people to her, and then she stopped. But even so, I feel very tired. The tasting party has not officially started yet, and she has already stopped eating. As expected, the only thing in the world that is more tiring than studying products is socializing and socializing. I found a corner and stayed quietly. I held a small tray in my hand and put all kinds of snacks on it. I was waiting for the official start to appreciate the new products of the masters, and then I went back. After all, this was not the first time for Zhao Xian to come to such a place. She dealt with the familiar colleagues with ease and could no longer see the little girl when she turned around. After searching for a long time, I found her in a corner. When I saw her feasting, I couldn't help but laugh and cry. I brought you all the way here just for you to eat. Zhao Xian rolled her eyes and said this, then casually took a glass of juice from the waiter's tray and handed it to her. Don't patronize it. Eat and drink too, it's too dry. The food here is good, it would be a waste not to eat it. Suyun took a sip of the juice and said with a smile, Sister Zhao, you should try it too. I'm not as greedy as you. Maybe it was because Zhao Xian liked her, but now she almost felt wrong about how Zhao Xian found her suitable, not pretentious, capable but not ostentatious, such a good perfumer. That Miss Zhang just now is probably the same Zhang Shiwei who had a lawsuit with you over at Wulan. Zhao Xian asked as he sat down next to her. Suyun nodded, I thought you knew her. I think I've met before, but I don't have any impression. She tilted her head and thought for a moment. In fact, there were quite a few competitions and activities that the freshmen and Weilan participated in together. Luo Yuanhang knew about this. Zhang Shiwei always followed Luo Yuanhang and met her many times, but she was never very impressed. Of course, the ones that impressed her most deeply were some of Wulan's works. She thought they were really amazing. It can be seen that the perfumer also had great ideas, but she didn't have the same sympathy for Zhang Shiwei as when she met a talented person. Could it be said that at that time, that was intuition? She stole the fruits of your labor, took away your credit, and poured dirty water on you. Are you not angry at all? Thinking about how she wanted to smear someone at the door just now, she felt disgusted. How could there be such a person who turned black into white, stole other people's achievements, and could so proudly confuse right and wrong? Angry? Why aren't you angry? Having finished eating a small piece of cake, Suyun looked at her and said seriously. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 69. Chapter 69, Shocking Words. Zhao Xian. She took her seriously, looked at her carefully, and then said, I really don't see how you look angry. Suyun chuckled, you don't have to show it on your face to be angry. You and I represent the company at such an important event. Why should I show all my emotions on my face for a villain? That's not crazy. It's over. Haha, Zhao Xian also laughed due to her teasing. Being angry is angry, but just being angry is useless. As the old saying goes, it is never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. I can't wait 10 years, but I can still wait for a year and a half. Let's see who can have the last laugh, she said disapprovingly. Nodding thoughtfully, Zhao Xian gained a deeper understanding of her and appreciated her even more. I have a question. Zhao Xian hesitated and did not say it, as it seemed a little difficult to say. Su Yun raised her eyebrows and said, "It's okay, just ask." Now, she also regards Zhao Xian as a friend. She has always known that Zhao Xian's various difficulties for her at first were just due to distrust and instinctive aversion to plagiarists and traitors. Zhao Xian's three views on this person: she is still very upright, and there is nothing wrong with people in essence. Her directness is much better than those who hide their knives in their smiles. Even though she said this, Zhao Xian still didn't speak. She raised her hand and rubbed her nose. At this moment, the lights in the audience suddenly dimmed a lot. "Good evening, gentlemen and ladies," came the voice from the microphone, repeated in English. "This is the tasting party is about to begin." Zhao Xian stopped continuing the topic, and cheered up with Su Yun to look towards the stage. "Thank you very much for attending tonight's tasting. I feel very honored and happy to see so many colleagues coming together." The host on the stage was still speaking in polite official language. Off the stage, Su Yun and Zhao Xian looked intently above, while only Zhang Shiwei was walking carefully among the crowd holding a wine glass. She was looking for Rosen. Rosen left earlier than her and should have arrived at the venue long ago. She did not rush in when she arrived. She looked outside the venue for a long time but did not see him. Later, she entered the venue and did not find him. In this situation, without him, she would be like an unknown little ant, and no one would pay attention to her at all. When she tried to take the initiative to greet people enthusiastically, but when the other person heard that she was a Wulan person, they smiled politely and turned around. Yes, Wulan is quite famous in the city, but when it is promoted nationwide, it really means nothing. Especially this time, not only the famous perfume industry in the country, but also some well-known perfumers from abroad are here. Here, Wulan is really nothing. The humiliation of being ignored and the annoyance of being attacked by Su Yun at the hotel door made her feel like a thorn in her back. She clearly realized that if Rosen was here, she might not be able to survive. Same. The lights on the stage came on, and she couldn't move any further. She could only stand still, but her eyes were still looking around, and she wasn't very interested in the new products on the stage. What new products or ideas have been developed and published? What effect can they have? No matter how good they are not theirs. All the glory and benefits belong to those people, so even if she produces something, it will be of no use. The purpose of her coming here is not to really learn anything, but to find some useful talents and poach them for her own use. Thinking of this, she no longer persisted in looking for Rosen. She couldn't find him anyway, and even if she found him, he might not pay attention to her unless she could. Her heart started to beat wildly when she thought of what he said in the hotel earlier. No, Rosen was just greedy for her body. He was not sincere at all. The only one she wanted to guard and hold on to was Luo Yuanhang. For new products displayed on the stage, a professional host will introduce the creator and his inspiration and creativity at that time. What does the top, middle, and bottom notes taste like? What kind of people are they more suitable for? Occasionally, they will also ask other questions. Do people think and feel differently? For each product, a few people will be invited to taste it, that is, smell it, try it, and then express their thoughts. Zhang Shiwei doesn't want to go up. It's not that she doesn't want to be in the limelight, but that she can't afford the limelight. She knows that this is a professional level, and if she says anything wrong, it will be easily exposed, so to be on the safe side, it is better to speak less and be less limelight. Trying her best to hide among the crowd, she saw Su Yun. Su Yun was invited to the stage by the host. He couldn't even call her by name, but what she was asked to taste was the work of the famous French perfumer Cromber. To be honest, most of the people present wanted to try Cromber's work, but did not dare to try it. After all, he is a master. Who doesn't want to taste it to help and improve his own perfume? But I am afraid that if I say something wrong, it will cause jokes. Not only will I not be able to win the favor of the master, but I will be self-defeating. So when Soo-yoon was called up, most people felt that she was finished. This girl looks quite unfamiliar. I have never seen her before, and I have never heard her name. She seems to be a newcomer who has not been in the industry for a long time. Some people who know about it secretly tell their friends that this girl is a newborn. Xinchen, many people in the industry know that it is a subsidiary of Uniasia, and because it is backed by Uniasia, it still has some face, but it is a subsidiary after all, so I thought it might be to send new people to temper it. Ms. Su, what you are about to taste now is the work of Master Kromberg. How about it? Will it be stressful? The host half-jokingly adjusted the atmosphere. I think the master may be under greater pressure than me. She smiled slightly, but her words were shocking. There was an uproar. Originally, Zhang Shiwei was staring at her with jealous eyes. After hearing Soo-yoon say this, a secret smile appeared on the corner of his lips. What a fool! Say this, it will only offend the master and all other senior colleagues in the industry. Does Soo-yoon really think she is great? He has no reputation at all, yet he is so arrogant. The host was a little embarrassed, but he still said bravely, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. What do you mean? She certainly heard the uproar and sighs below, and saw Zhao Xian frowning at her and shaking his head, signaling her to stop talking nonsense. Soo-yoon's face remained unchanged, and she still maintained a calm smile. What I mean is that as a senior, the master often hears us juniors commenting on his works. Even if he hears some nonsense, he must maintain enough grace not to follow him. We, the younger generation, must be under a lot of pressure. End of this chapter. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 70. Chapter 70 suddenly became the focus of the audience. The host, who was sweating, breathed a sigh of relief, and everyone laughed. Miss Su is so humorous. Indeed, as seniors, we are always the ones to learn from, but not everyone can understand the essence. Miss Su, how much do you think you can understand? There is something in these words. It's provocative. In fact, it may not be a provocation. Sometimes it just arouses topics and heat, pushing the atmosphere to a small climax. Because of the previous episode, everyone was in high spirits, waiting for her answer. This question seems simple, but if you answer it too openly, it will undoubtedly appear too arrogant and not modest enough. However, if you are timid, it will make people feel that they lack confidence, and strength. Looking at the host, Soo-yoon smiled and said, I don't dare to say what I have learned. As perfumers, we all know that every perfumer has a new inspiration and idea, and when he concocts it, he will have his own unique insights. Even in the process of creation itself, there will be new thoughts and feelings. People's differences are destined to make it impossible to understand what is going on in other people's minds. I dare not say how much I understand the master's creativity. I can only say what my personal thoughts and feelings were when trying this new product. She stood there, talking openly, without any stage fright. Her smile was full of confidence, and her eyes had power that made people want to believe. She was like a light, attracting the attention of the whole audience. Perhaps many people didn't realize it, but unknowingly, their eyes were attracted to her, and they gradually nodded in agreement with her statement. There was a box on the second floor of the venue, which was located enough to overlook the entire venue. The man was sitting there with a faint smile on his lips. The tasting session became more lively due to the appearance of many new perfumers. It is a good place to learn experience, communicate with each other, and even discover talents. Zhang Shiwei's eyes became darker and darker, and her mood became more and more depressed and irritable. Everyone seems to be shining, everyone is attracting attention, but she is forgotten and ignored by everyone. Why? She has obviously won so many awards, she has obviously worked hard to climb up the ranks, and she is obviously also a perfumer. But it's like no one knows. She regretted it, she shouldn't have come here, she shouldn't have humiliated herself by running away. Standing up, she wanted to leave. That lady, the host suddenly called out, "Yes, that's the beauty standing up in the red dress, it's you, okay." Snapped. It was as if all the spotlights were on her. Suddenly, she became the center of attention, and she couldn't even admit it. With her back stiffened, Zhang Shiwei stiffened her neck and turned around slowly, still holding on to a glimmer of hope, hoping that she had made a mistake and that it was not her who was calling. However, when she turned around, the host looked at her with a smile and said, "Can you please come on stage?" Zhang Shiwei. Facing the attention of so many people, no matter how reluctant she was, she couldn't just throw her hands away and leave regardless. It would be too embarrassing and she couldn't afford to lose face. Stepping stiffly, she walked towards the stage step by step. She didn't look away, for fear that she would see strange looks from others, especially those from Suyun, which would make her die of shame and anger. Until she stood on the stage, she did not dare to look down, but looked straight ahead. "Miss, may I ask your surname?" the host asked enthusiastically. This lady, seeing her dazed look, the host called again. Suddenly coming back to his senses, Zhang Shiwei looked at him and said, "I." As soon as I opened my mouth, I realized that my voice was a little hoarse. She cleared her throat quickly and held the phone tightly, her mind going blank. She has stood in the spotlight more than once, all to win awards, receive praise and applause, but this time, she panicked, her hands and feet were cold, and her body was shaking slightly. If she was asked to taste it, wouldn't it be embarrassing if she made a mistake? And it's embarrassing in front of Suyun. She doesn't want this. This lady may be a little nervous. It doesn't matter. If you are tired, you can take a rest first. Let's change. The host, who was trying to smooth things over, was interrupted by Zhang Shiwei before he finished speaking. "Sorry, I was distracted just now." She tried her best to make her smile appear natural. "My surname is Zhang, I come from Wulan Company in Suzhou City, and I am a perfumer." No matter how nervous she was before, at least at this moment, she was still decent. The host said quickly, "It turns out to be Miss Zhang. She has a beautiful voice and a sweet voice. The one just now, Miss Su, I remember she is also from Su City. It seems that Su City is not only if you have a perfumer, you will also have a beautiful woman." The people below all laughed. Some looked at Zhang Shiwei, while others looked at Suyun. Zhang Shiwei's eyes naturally glanced in the direction of Suyun, and she smiled meaningfully. "Yes, Miss Su and I are still classmates." "Ah, so that's it." After the pleasantries, the host immediately brought the topic back to the topic. "Miss Su performed very well just now, and I believe Miss Zhang will not let us down. The perfume I am going to taste below was created by a new senior perfumer. Although this perfumer is young, he has already won 2 international awards, and he himself is here today." Arrived at the scene, Zhang Shiwei, who had already relaxed slightly, immediately became tense again. She originally thought that the worst she could do was just make up a few random sentences, but she still had some foundation. Even if what she said was wrong, it was always right to make it more normal. With a few words of praise and some ethereal adjectives, she would have completed the task. No one would take her too seriously. But now, when the host said that the creator himself had also come to the scene, it was hard for her to make such nonsense. She would not be able to bear the embarrassment of being exposed on the spot. At this moment, she wanted to run away immediately. Unexpectedly, there seemed to be roots under her feet, and she couldn't move. She was sweating uncontrollably. Haha, Miss Zhang, don't be too nervous, our master is still very easygoing. Why don't we present the works first, and Miss Zhang will taste them first, and then we can invite the master himself, okay? She opened her mouth, but couldn't even squeeze out the word good. She watched with straight eyes as the staff brought up the work and placed it on the table in front of her. Ms. Zhang, it's time to start. She moved over step by step, as if what was in front of her was not perfume but a bomb. She could almost foresee what kind of ridicule she would receive later. She felt cold all over, but had nowhere to escape. End of this chapter.